Athletic Football Show.
Welcome to the Athletic Football Show. I'm Robert Mays. Joining me tonight, it's my good friend Nate Tice. Nate, how you doing, buddy?
Doing very well. That was something.
That was something. It was a great game. It was a great primetime game. I've been missing those.
No complaints.
The Sunday night slate this year has been pretty meh, and this is exactly what we were hoping for. At least it was exciting until the end. There was some sloppy football, and we'll get into that. It wasn't the cleanest game from these two teams. It wasn't a Super Bowl rematch in that way, but at least it went down to the end. At least we got plenty of stuff to talk about. Oh, yeah. I am a happy man right now.
Yeah, it's much better than like pulling and doing postmortems and talking about regime changes. It's like, oh yeah, these two. It's really fun when you keep an eye on these teams because they're relevant, because they're the two of the best teams, and you watch them, they're relevant. You see the twists that they make, the changes that they make, the new personnel stuff they do. And I thought, this game is just a perfect example of that. So I mean, just
you had a better time tonight than you did during Panthers Bears. Is that what you're trying to tell me?
A little bit better, than Bears Commanders. What are the good ones? What are the Thursday ones that we haven't had this year?
We've had some good blowouts. We've had some good ones.
Yeah, there's been some decent ones, some entertaining ones.
All right, where do you want to start with this? Do you want to start with the Chiefs wide receiver problem and it continuing to rear its ugly head? It feels like the most natural place to start.
Yeah, what is there to say? Hold on to the ball, run the right route. There's just several miscommunication stuff that crops up, and even like a guy like the ones that are supposed to be kind of the veterans, quote unquote, of the group because it's such a young group. Like Watson, there's one where he runs a go instead of a post, and you can see Reed and Mahomes going like, "Oh, what are you doing, man?" He runs a post instead of a go. That's what it was. But it was just like you just see that over and over. The drops that come up, even Kelsey having a drop, but Kelsey and Mahomes had the turnovers, and they had the turnovers in the red zone. So it's like if they just one of those isn't a turnover, even if it's a field goal, it's a tie game. So. But those two drops at the end are just brutal because there's two brilliant throws from Mahomes. That just kind of sums it up right there.
He's trying a game-winning touchdown.
Trying to win him the game.
Play. Yeah. The MVS play is a game-winning touchdown if he catches that ball. There's no imagination necessary. The Watson catch is harder to make, but that's still a play that you absolutely can make. It was a missile by Mahomes. To even put that ball in a position where he could catch it is absolutely ridiculous. And so I want to pull back just a little bit. When I've been talking about looking at the Chiefs this year, you think about some of the offensive struggles that they've had. I've done a lot of hand waving of it because I think the underlying metrics are solid and it's like, they'll figure it out. It's Mahomes, it's Reed, they'll figure it out. Tonight is the first time where I find myself a little bit worried about what this is going to look like in the long term, because these are the types of teams you have to play against to win the Super Bowl. When we get to the playoffs and you're going to be relying on Watson or Rashee Rice in his limited capacity, whatever they're asking him to do in playoff games against really good teams, I don't know. I still have a lot of confidence in their ability to figure it out just because they always seem to. And I have a lot of faith in the people up top. But this is one of those games where I think you really realize against good teams in high leverage moments, they struggle to find guys who are going to come up with these sorts of plays.
Yeah, I get what you mean. Like facing good teams is hard. I just can't now in the AFC, just those top teams that would give them issues are kind of get battered. So that kind of makes me not as worried because the Dolphins are playing well on both sides of the ball and they just beat them. But right before the bye, I just think that this offense is going to find the answers. Like once again, they had those two drives. The second half stuff is weird because it's definitely an opening script, off script stuff. That's always an Andy Reid thing anyways, but usually they just overcome it. And it just felt like that Kelsey fumble was very deflating for this team. And again, they don't have like that vet that's kind of just like, all right, we're just going to pound Juju right now.
That's kind of my thing is that there's a lack of reliability in some of these moments.
Too much Tony. Tony's unreliable. Just too much of that. And I get why. He's very intriguing. You see the juice and you see what he can do, but he has proven time and time again, the more reps that you give to him, the more targets, the more touches you give to him, the more likely something bad will happen or miscommunication will happen. It's just proven by this point. I was intriguing the kind of like using him like a Deebo Samuel truly today. I was really drilling the backfield. That's a good use for him. Don't let him run a route. Just give them the ball. And I found some of the run game stuff. I thought they were finding better answers in the run game. They're pounding it down the middle, duo. They're packaging a bunch of stuff on the outside. So I liked all the answers, and I love the defense. So it's like, and I'm looking at the AFC because I'm trying to think of these bad Chiefs games so far. I'm just looking at the AFC. It's like, all right, who will give them issues? And it's like, I think they can hang with everybody still. So that's why I still am not that worried.
I absolutely think they can hang with everybody, mostly because the defense. I mean, they can win games in the 20s because of how well the defense is playing. I'm just worried that we're going to get to a moment in the playoffs where they need somebody to come up with one of these plays that's not Travis Kelce, and they're just going to come up empty, because that's what it feels like right now. But we're having a very different conversation here. If there isn't a drop on fourth on 3rd and 4, Andy Reid doesn't elect to punt from the 39-yard line on 4th and 4, which is a brutal decision in that moment, or MVS catches that ball. So all of the they haven't scored in the second half, of the lowest second half scoring team in the league.
Yeah.
They had 2 drives where they absolutely should have had points and come away with it in the second half of this game, but multiple reasons as to why they didn't. So I have a lot of faith in them as a team overall. I just can't remember feeling quite this way about the pass catching group, even last year. It felt like we had a version of MVS last year. It felt like Juju was more reliable than the guys that we have. So it's just a strange version of a Chiefs team that is difficult for me to process because I'm not used to it.
It's a lot of explosive guys, but not that just reliable
Mm-hmm.
Chevy. It's like they don't have that little bruiser, that little innings eater of the receiver room. Rice is going to be a good player. You can see the explosiveness with him, but you can tell that they're just trying to, like, let's not overwhelm him. And
It's
then
all schemed touches for him at this point. He doesn't really fit into the rhythm or the flow of the offense at all, which is my biggest concern in terms of how he's being used. I'm sure there's a reason for that, but there's still a barrier to him being
kind of
guy for whatever reason. Sure.
And so that's why. And I thought that he would maybe get even more today. And I mean, it's, again, there's a reason why Watson was getting all those targets. Maybe that was designed by the Eagles defense. You got to kind of see how they were playing them. So I think that's just going to be really interesting on a rewatch. I was liking early on, just like the first half was fantastic. I mean, how they're running the ball, like all the stuff they were throwing. I mean, just remember that feeling, which is not just remember that. The first half was like, wow, look what this offense is really clicking. I'm loving this run game, all the stuff they're getting through. But I don't know. Mahomes also, he was like giving out the cadence, like he was saying like the front and coverage during the cadence, which I thought was interesting. So it's like they're trying to make maybe some tweaks after this bye week. And it's just, again, it's like, are they trying stuff out? That's what I'm worried about. It's like, we have to figure this out at some point. Somebody's got to step up.
I was very impressed with how they were just winning the game up front in the first half. I mean, some of it's design stuff, but what the tackles and even tight ends were doing to the edge rushers for the Eagles at a certain point, like they were just attacking them on the perimeter throughout the entire first half and running the ball really efficiently. And that's something that you like to see. If they can lean into that, maybe that's one of those consistent answers. But I think if we're taking away the good things about this for Kansas City specifically, the defense really gave the Eagles a hard time throughout the entire game, and especially the first half. All of those kind of wonky pressures that Steve Spagnuolo was sending on early downs, consistently they're bringing McDuffie off the edge, off the slot, and only bringing 4, dropping a defensive lineman out. And the Eagles had no answers to what some of those pressure looks looked like. I mean, you could see how they were just kind of fumbling around for the light switch, screens, quarterback draws. I mean, they were not even trying to throw the ball traditionally because of their inability to handle some of that stuff early in the game.
Yeah, they totally gamed him up. It was pretty sweet. They kept calling the same thing over and over. So yeah, like you said, they're just bringing McDuffie, 4-man creeper, they call it, which is you're not showing anything, but then you bring 4, an unnormal 4, abnormal 4, sorry. But on those, what they were doing is that the Eagles pass protection, they were gaming up their 5-man protection, their empty protection. And within 5-man protection, the center, Kelce, is going to point to the linebacker that's in the box because he is the most likely rusher. They're going to take the 4 defensive linemen and the most likely rusher. So that is the point. That is who he's pointing at. Us 5 offensive linemen got him. The Eagles love to do 5-man protection in 3rd and long situations. Let's get everybody out. Like, we have a great offensive line. Let's get all of our weapons out. Hurts go and create. We get all this space. It works for them. But they just gamed it up. So they can bring 4. Truly, no one is going to McDuffie. You could have the 3-man slide that's supposed to go over there fall into it, but this is where the intelligence of like what the Chiefs knowing what they're doing, they run a defensive line game with it. So now that it picks it And then McDuffie's just running free. And so they just could call that if it was a 5-man protection, that's unblockable by
and they were doing a lot on early downs too. Clearly they thought they saw something in the game plan, like we can bring this on early downs. I saw them do it multiple times.
Running back was in, maybe that was the tell.
But they did it multiple times on 1st and 10. So he got 2 sacks off of it on 1st and 10 in the first drive and the first half. And then in the third quarter or fourth quarter, they tried to throw that like RPO kind of bubble to the right side, and he broke it up in the backfield. So I mean, he made 3 or 4 plays in the backfield off of that one specific look in this game. And I think the Eagles really struggled to kind of figure out exactly how they wanted to approach this. Again, it was a lot of screens, and I think that it really affected Hurts's timing in the pocket. There are moments later where it's 2nd, 3rd down, they're only bringing 4. He has way more time and space than he's acting like he does, but I think that he was just sped up and affected so much by how they were approaching him for most of the game that it really did have a trickle-down effect to situations where they weren't even bringing extra rushers or anything funky.
Absolutely. They're really messing with everything post-snap, like not just the coverage shell, but front leverage. We talk about this with like the Ravens defense as well, but some of those blitz looks were making it was just like automatic. They would kind of blitz or run a simulated or a creeper, and he would just bail out of the pocket. And it works. Sometimes you hit Devontae Smith coming over across the ball, but that just kind of gets you out of rhythm. And they were kind of baiting him into doing that. The Chiefs were shifting fronts too. And again, this is the Eagles do so much pre-snap or pre-snap, killing the play, single high, 2 high, all that. Or sometimes they do it off the front. So what the Chiefs do? Let's shift the front and the coverage and mess with both of them.
We talked about this coming into the game, how they were using Chanel as an edge rusher. So they'd be in those 5-0 looks. And then there were a couple plays in this game where right before the snap, Chanel pops off the line of scrimmage. They shift into a 4-man front. So again, just all the little wrinkles that we've seen from the Chiefs defense. All of this being said, the Eagles won the game.
The Eagles won.
The Eagles won the game. And it's just so funny that everyone's so often with the Eagles, I want to make it really complicated. And I want to find kind of these hidden ways, these hidden reasons that they continue to do stuff like this. And in reality, there's a little bit of that. We can get to it. But if I'm listing off the reasons that they won this game offensively, Jason Kelce is absolutely ridiculous in the ways that they use him in the run game. And they had 5-6 big chunks in the run game, often with him pulling and getting out into space. They have one deep shot. Like one obligatory deep shot as part of the recipe. This one was interesting because Devontae Smith was in the slot. And so it's a little bit of a different look as him on that slot fade. Typically we see those outside the numbers go balls from this team, but they got one of them. And that's pretty much it. Like their ability to kind of grind people in the run game. You get one shot. And then Jalen Hurts had a couple of really nice moments even before the deep ball to Devontae Smith on that drive. I think there was a 3rd and 5 where he hit Smith over the middle. And then it looked like they had a bunch to the left side, and Smith was on like an option route where he took it inside and Hurts hit him on the exact same drive. So again, uneven game, kind of a scattered game from Jalen Hurts overall. And in the fourth quarter, when it mattered, he hit those 2-3 throws on that drive that ultimately won them the game. Yeah.
And even the Eagles, like in the start of the second half, they went under center, which was like, I think there was only like their 10th run play from under center this year. So that was like unique. They're trying stuff. And, whenever things get rough, what's always nice with the Eagles, they can pound the rock. They're going to find a run because they can do all the runs well. And Kelce being a weapon and all the pulling stuff, it got highlighted tonight. I actually thought Troy Aikman did a very nice job.
I thought the call on the game tonight was excellent. I really enjoyed it throughout the entire fourth quarters. Yes, absolutely.
I agree. I thought they did a wonderful job. They were pointing out all the right stuff. I was like, oh man, it's going to sound like I'm just copying Aikman right now. Because all my notes, I would have the note. You're saying this. I had the exact same thought, like in the fourth quarter. I was writing something, and all of a sudden Aikman saying it. I'm like, all right, I put my phone down. I'm like, all right, whatever. I don't need to write that down. But even when kind of spags, this sometimes happens, especially when what's nice about the Eagles is that even when they're wrong, they could be right. The Devontae Smith touchdown, Jalen Hurts got fooled on it, and it doesn't matter because Devontae Smith could just beat it. And it was a great ball, trust me. Or it was a little behind, but Devontae Smith just adjusts for it. It was perfectly good enough. It was good enough. It's all you need to do in that situation. It's an anchor ball. So that one they're showing single high. The Eagles love to run if it's too high, like cover 2 or cover 4. You look at this side. If it's cover 1 or cover 3, you look at this side. So he looks at the single high side, the slot fade. but it actually was cover 2, and it rotates back, and then it doesn't matter. Like, I mean,
that's
it's not
the problem is when you're Mike Edwards and you're playing 8
exactly
yards off the ball, it's a little bit difficult to get back into the deep half.
I've really come around to this, and it's something my dad always would say, because sometimes I would be like, "Oh man, why did like so and so throw that to that when he was like a coach and stuff like that?" And he'd be like, "It's players. It's all about players." It's like, and that's what the Eagles have.
Are.
That's what
the
they
Eagles
have.
are. And even in these moments where it's like, oh man, it's kind of ugly and sludgy, and then eventually they come out of the wash in the end because they have those sorts of guys. And
Yep.
I can have so much kind of consternation, hemming and hawing about their inconsistencies on offense and how teams can kind of blitz them or pressure them out of the way they want to play. And that's what this felt like tonight. There were long stretches where it just felt like they were getting pressured out of playing the way that they want to play. Think specifically back to that drive in the second half where they throw the bubble to Devontae Smith that gets blown up by L'Jarius Sneed, who had
almost gets
a bunch
picked
of really good moments today.
because the ball floated in the air.
What a ridiculous sequence by him and those DBs on that play.
Yeah.
On the next play, they come back and throw a little tunnel screen to Julio Jones because it's like, well, wait, this is what we got. And then they threw how many middle screens to DeAndre Swift in this
That's
game?
all they had.
A couple of them hit. But they kept spamming those because they didn't really have better options in any sort of traditional passing game. But again, they string together 4, 5, 6 moments with the dudes that they have, and it ends up becoming enough. And there's really all you can say about this team. It's really good to have really good players, and they got a bunch of them.
They do. It was. I mean, there's a lot of big moments there. It was a fun match. Like, it was just a fun game. Like, it really was, as far as schematics, because this is a repeat matchup now. And you could see some of the stuff, like the empty runs with Jalen Hurts. Like, it's fun because now that's a thing. And like, you can see Chris Jones anticipating that. Like, that was a great one. The kill. And then they also brought down the safety. They brought down Edwards to come down when they checked into an empty run with Jalen Hurts. So it was like, God, you're getting into the third, four level stuff, and that's so much fun.
It was awesome. And the one they blew up, they were in a 5-0 front.
Yeah.
So that Kelsey was pulling.
That's when they
all
check
of
into
those.
It's the 5-0 fronts.
But it was 5 down. It was 5 down defensive linemen. Like had their hands on the ground. And so I was looking at it, and that was the first time that I think Kelsey was covered, and so he couldn't pull on that play, and he couldn't block Chris Jones, and he blew it up in the backfield. So just like all the little wrinkles, even on that play specifically in this game, and on defense for the Eagles, one thing that really jumped out to me, and I would love to look at the numbers on it later in the week when they actually populate. I can't remember them blitzing like this ever.
Yeah.
They coming into this game, they had 14 plays this season where they brought 6 or more pass rushers. I bet that they had 8 today. I guarantee you it was more than there was at least half, probably more than half of they had all season. They were bringing so much pressure in this game, and it was working. I mean, they just were not going to give him any time, and it was consistently affecting the Chiefs passing game the entire game.
Yeah. And I mean, just having eyes on Kelsey too. Like, you could see that happening a lot. Like, even he almost had like kind of like a little pop play to Kelsey over. It's like, which one? Because he does it like 4 times a game, but he throws it over his head. Even on that one, like when we watch it on the wide view, the normal TV view, the one we just all watched, he throws it and it's like, oh, almost had it there. And then they show the spider cam view, and it's like, there's 2 guys right next to Kelsey and then a guy behind Kelsey. And that's the thing, is on passing downs. I mean, at first they were getting all the third downs and the Eagles weren't getting any at all, but they were really starting to clamp down on it because they're like, let's just get eyes on them. None of these other guys are going to beat us consistently. They might get us once or twice. And I think that's what what teams are going to start betting on.
It reminds me of the Miami game. That's exactly what the Dolphins did, and their Chiefs struggled to move the ball through the air because of it. So they're going to have to find, again, a reliable option when defenses continue to play them like that. But just a really fun game between 2 very good teams who have some familiarity, obviously, with it being a Super Bowl rematch. I continue to just love the answers that Steve Spagnuolo is trying to out there. Like their defense right now is just one of the most fun units in the league to watch. But the Eagles have counter punches in the form of better players than most of the teams they're going to play against.
The Chiefs were straight up doing things that were just taking away the play they were anticipating. Like, as far as like, if I had to call it something officially, I wouldn't know what to call it. Like, where they're having Willie Gay at the snap of the ball just run straight to the flat because he knows a screen, it's an RPO screen. But it's like, if I were to call it something, I'm like, I don't know, that's just him going rogue. But they had so much of that just game. It's Spags. It was a Spags game coming off a bye where he just has so much game planny stuff for each little thing. I was just talking about the front adjustment stuff. In that they're creating like a 3-4 front out of nickel and they're using this versatility. Justin Reed is a linebacker there, and then he rotates to be a cover 2 safety. And again, I'm not trying to throw all these terms at you, but just saying they throw a lot at you.
Yeah.
And for a team, sometimes when Hurts, like when you change the picture on post snap, he's going to get you. This is what they were doing to Tua as well. Some of these guys, they're so pre-snap, that's what they operate off of. And then once in a while they can adjust post snap. They're going to be uneven against this. But again, like you got to credit the Eagles. They do pull off this win, but it's like, man, this Chiefs defense is just going to keep them in every single game because there's not many quarterbacks that can go against this snap after snap. It's tough. It's really tough. Even I'm watching, it's the same shell every single time. And then they just rotate. Once in a while, you can start seeing them creeping in the slot. But again, you're the quarterback. You don't see that stuff. It's really good stuff.
I'm excited to see this version of the Eagles defense personnel wise, like with their secondary healthier and seemingly having some answers back there. Blankenship has missed time this year. They've been sorting through guys to put in the slot, but now they got Roby there and got the Byard trade. So it really does feel like we're going to see the best version of the Eagles defense here down the stretch, which I'm excited to watch because they've had some uneven moments this year, but they've been dealing with a decent amount of injuries. So I think that we're going to see better days from them. And I think the second half of this game was an example of that.
Byard pick was a boy. I'm glad I called that guy moment. That was, man, I get why Mahomes threw it that way, but it was still kind of like, just like, no, man, it's just, come on, just don't do that. That's kind of like, like having the ball like loose at the 1 yard line and dropping it. It's kind of like, no, just it's like he was just trying to lob it in there. And I was like, no, come on, just throw it. But it's a great play by Byard. But yeah, you can't have those. These tough games, you can't have those.
All right. Big game, big win for the Eagles. I hate it for me because now I think I'm going to be like mathematically alive in our wins pool after this game, when in actuality, I should just give up all hope. But
string you along.
I know. I really should just I should just cash it in right now. I should just be like, you know what? There's just no way. And just emotionally cash it in. But I'm not capable of doing that, unfortunately. I'm gonna cling to my Jake Browning hope for the rest of the year.
We got 2.5 months. No month. Really? No, 6 weeks. A month and a half.
God, I'm absolutely dreading it. All right. That's all we got, guys. Sincerely appreciate you coming by. Please check out everything we got on the Athletic Football Show feed this week. I know it's a holiday week, but we're going to have our stuff coming to you a little bit staggered times, maybe a little bit earlier, a little bit later, but all of the shows are going to be coming your way. So be on the lookout for that. Obviously, no Thursday night recap this week because of it's Thanksgiving. You guys should enjoy some time with your families. We're going to do that, but we'll be back with our Sunday night recap the same way we always are right here. So please be on the lookout for that. Right now, that's all we got. Appreciate you guys listening. We'll talk to you soon.